You may have heard the news about the 4 officers involved in the Derek Chauvin trial having indictments handed down to them by the Department of Justice. This is a tactic by the Department of Justice to taint the jury for the upcoming trials of these other 3. And this spells an ominous warning for Kyle Rittenhouse, because the Department of Justice may try the same scheme. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just take a look at the news here. Then I'm going to have an expert come in and explain what this means.
The additional charges for Derek Chauvin, the former officer convicted of killing George Floyd. A federal grand jury indicting him along with 3 other former Minneapolis police officers, alleging they violated Floyd's constitutional rights. ABC's Zachary Quiche has the details.
This morning, a new federal indictment pins the possibility of life in prison on the 4 Minneapolis police officers implicated in the death of George Floyd. The U.S. Department of Justice writing that when Derek Chauvin kneeled on George Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes, he used unconstitutional, unreasonable force that led to his murder. Former Minneapolis police officers Chauvin, Tu Tao, Alexander King, and Thomas Lane are all named in the 3-count indictment for willfully depriving Mr. Floyd of his constitutional rights during his arrest. Relative to recent history, the charges came swift. Chauvin was convicted of killing Floyd in state court last month.
This was about George Floyd's life, the fact that he had a constitutional right to life.
What you see there is what we would call a race hustler of the worst sort.
When they denied him a breath for that knee being on his neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, if that wasn't a constitutional violation, we don't know what was.
We reached out to the officers and received no comment, but legal experts are already considering the implications of these new charges, both on the 3 officers who have yet to face trial in Minnesota, but also on the jurors that will determine their guilt or innocence.
Bingo. And that is what the Department of Justice is all about here. It's the jurors for the upcoming trial. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the LEO roundtable. The person we're going to hear from is Ward Mythaler. He is a former federal prosecutor, and he has quite a bit to say about this.
Are there any comments on this, Ward? You want to take a stab at it?
Yes, this troubles me a lot. I believe that this violates, from what I've seen, Department of Justice policy. Look, the Fifth Amendment provides for protections against double jeopardy. That doesn't apply where they're separate sovereigns, such as the federal government and a state government. But nonetheless, it's basically thought to be unfair to charge someone twice, even if one is federal and one is state. Consequently, the Department of Justice has a long-standing policy. It's called the Petite policy of not prosecuting people federally if they're prosecuted by the state, unless there's a grievous miscarriage of justice or there's a compelling federal interest that has not been vindicated. That has not happened here. Chauvin was convicted, and he's going to get a very lengthy sentence. The other 3 guys have not been tried yet, so there was absolutely no reason, in my opinion, to bring these charges when they did.
The charges that the feds are going to be laying against Kyle are not the same as the ones that he is facing in the state trial. In another video, I discussed these charges, which would amount to conspiracy to purchase a firearm illegally. I went over another case that was very similar to Kyle's, where the participants had done actually far more egregious acts, which led to the death of 2 people. And I noted that the sentences that were handed out were relatively mild. No prison sentence. But again, this is not about the sentence that Kyle would get once he is federally prosecuted. This is about the tainting of the jury for the upcoming state trial.
I mean, no legitimate reason. These prosecutions are very rare, and I don't believe it meets the policy here. Furthermore, it's a totally redundant prosecution. It's a waste of resources. I think the timing here is abusive They could have sealed the indictment and not announced it, but they announced it before the trial of the other 3 defendants. We've already had a tainted jury pool thanks to Maxine Walters and President Biden. So I think this indictment is abusive in terms of people's constitutional rights. The only thing I can figure is this was a political decision for the Biden administration to cater to the hard left part of the Democrat Party, because it appears to me they're not going to get what they want in terms of legislation. If that's the case, if I were the defense attorney here, I would look seriously at a claim of selective prosecution for political reasons, which in itself is unconstitutional.
So what is this Petit policy anyway? Well, I'd heard of it before, but I didn't know much about it. I'll go ahead and read this to you. The Petit policy refers to a housekeeping provision of the U.S. Justice Department that following a state prosecution, there should be no federal prosecution for the same transaction in the absence of compelling federal interests. It is merely an internal guideline for exercise of prosecutorial discretion and therefore not subject to judicial review. Now you may be wondering, do you really believe that the Department of Justice would do such a thing? Would the DOJ politicize a trial? And the answer is absolutely. This is not about Biden. This is about Kamala Harris. Is she of the sort that would convict an innocent person to appease her constituents? Of course. So once Kamala Harris gets a hold of this, watch out. She's going to appease the mob, and she will absolutely throw a 17-year-old kid to the mob to keep them happy. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.